does it make sense and what's being underserved? Like, obviously, we know the business is changing. Video is a big thing now. Digital marketing is a big thing. Like, the person that can get the most eyeballs is the person that gets the most business. And I think that that's like the easiest way to do that. Of like, hey, nobody's doing anything like this in Pinehurst. Like, people, the only thing that people know about Pinehurst is Pinehurst Resort, and that's where obviously the U.S. Open was this year. And they don't know that the town was planned by Frank Olmsted, who's the city planner for Central Park. They don't know that the Rockefellers and the Carnegies, and that there's a house actually that I'm going after that was built by the grandnephew of John D. Rockefeller and the grandniece of Andrew Carnegie. It was their honeymoon home that they had built back in 1934. And they're trying to give this house away for like $1.3 million. And I'm like, this, like, there's somebody in New York that'll pay like 7 million just to have a John D. Rockefeller house.
I like the idea, first of all, that this like the Sirhan mantra is eyeballs win. If
Yeah.
you get the most eyeballs, we're the most digitally active brand out there, and that's Ryan's thing from number one. I'm gonna throw this to Anthony, who's in here, who does not know I'm gonna call on him. So I hope you're prepared. Anthony is our head coach in our pro coaching program. Anthony, how would you suggest if somebody came to you and said, feeder market versus major market, how do you, as someone new, the first thing maybe you would say to breaking into a new smaller market?
So I think so, Alex. Good to meet you, buddy.
Didn't make you.
I've yeah, I went through a process of expanding a team from also a little bit of a geographic jump, and it's become more and more popular over these last couple of years. You're seeing agents that are jumping not just 2 hours, but you're seeing them jump, plane rides apart. One of the things about the availability of data and knowledge today is it's a lot easier. So it's a lot easier for if I were to come to Pinehurst and all I really know about Pinehurst is you got some nice golf courses.
Yeah.
But when you think about some of those markets, it's far easier for today or even for you to come up to the Northeast. You could sit down in my office and give yourself 3 hours, 4 hours. If I gave you like my login credentials to the local MLS, and you could prepare a relatively accurate CMA in a quick amount of time and have a pretty good grasp of the local market. So that's a possibility, and that's available. When I enter a new market like that, we already have the skill sets. We possess the skills are transferable. It's just a matter of learning at a really detailed, hyper local area like level, knowing that market inside out, upside down, so you can talk it, and then going and building your database within that market. I like your multiple media format approach. I think that's important in today's market. I think we don't necessarily choose the way the local residents and the audience that you're trying to reach. Like we don't necessarily
Yeah.
choose how they consume or going to engage in the type of content you're going to create. So yeah, so you've got to have an approach that touches, and that's what Sharon's brilliant. That's what Sharon means when he's talking about getting in front of people's eyes. We need to meet those eyes where they are. Some of them are going to respond to social media and other digital platforms really, really well. Some are not. Some are going to respond to email. Some are going to respond to a postcard in their mailbox. Or like community events, right? Getting
Mhm.
face to face. That's an impression. That's a visibility. So I think when you identify who the audience is and then what's going to be your highest likelihood of getting in front of them, then we just got to, execute on making sure we're getting in front of them consistently and communicating a type of content that that speaks knowledge, speaks connection to the community, positions yourself as being an expert and the type of person that they want to hire. And then just taking the time. I like also as we're entering a new market to go after what could be low hanging fruit. And
Yeah.
it sounds like
FISBOs and expireds or
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And especially like hit some of those markets that expired, especially at high end, are for a lot of agents like the low hanging fruit. Especially you've got a great brand presence that you can bring to conversation, um, and attract. And in a lot of those cases, like it's wide open, right? One of the things with some of these small towns is a lot of times there's a lot of history and there's
Hmm.
this kind of like old guard, and what we've seen happen over these last 5, 7, 10 years is that old guard has done exactly that. They've gotten a little old, and in some cases haven't maintained the ability. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm old, right? It's,
Uh,
the onus is on us to maintain relevance and
Yeah.
connection. But there's a lot that haven't. They haven't maintained relevance and connection, and for that, the door's wide open for you to, for you to take advantage.
That's exactly what's kind of happening in Wilmington itself. Yeah, Pinehurst is a fickle animal. It's like the middle of nowhere. Like
Hmm.
it's a very randomly small place town. But that in itself, like Wilmington being the MSA of like Pinehurst, which Fayetteville, Wilmington, kind of in between there.
Right.
That is like that's the biggest thing that I have here because again, like for the longest time, this was a huge um retiree market, like
Yep.
massive retiree market. So like of course, what's the greatest retirement job on the face of earth? Selling real estate.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but I like what you said about luxury because the low hanging fruit of luxury expires, and this is what I want to tell everybody here. Like it is not hard to get a luxury expired. There are so many agents that just because there's an extra couple zeros at the end, they're afraid to call these people because they think that they're gonna like verbally abuse them over the phone. And I'm like, oh, they actually are really very pleasant to talk to. Uh,
Yeah.
90% of the time.
Right. If
Like
you
I can't
communicate
stand that.
knowledge, yeah, they want
Yeah.
it's the same conversation. It's funny. I had a conversation with a client a couple months back, and we were working on getting a price reduction for something. It was in New York City, and it was a price reduction from $9 million to $8 million.
Yeah.
And she shared an email that she received from her seller. And I laughed and I said, it's exactly the same email that any of our other sellers send us when we're talking about going from 450 to 4, or 375 to 325. It was exactly the same. People are going to think I'm desperate. I'm not leaving enough room to negotiate,
Hmm.
right? Why can't people just make offers? Like it was all the same concerns from from obviously a person with a very high net wealth. We're voicing exactly the same concerns. So the conversation's the same. We just have to speak from a place of, first of all, you have to learn it. You have to learn it inside,
Yeah.
outside out, and
I mean,
communicate
well, the
it.
wealth markets move different than, and that's what I've basically spent the past year doing. Like I do a lot with Robert Frank and a few other people that I've kind of like really started to connect with through coincidentally like cold LinkedIn stuff. But my cold LinkedIn like is so I have the weirdest LinkedIn on the face of the earth. I've got like three CEOs of Rolls Royce. I've got a couple like F1 team principals, and I'm like,
Hmm.
it's just weird. But
Right.
I'll cold DM these guys, and again, that was how I connected with Robert. And like, yeah, learning how the wealth market moves is very simple, but
Hmm.
you have to learn like hey, the guy that's into art and culture, you might need to probably buy him some tickets to Art Basel in Miami. Or the guy that's into F1, hey, he may like Monaco. And yeah, I mean, Sean Elliott's a prime example in terms of like ultra luxury presence with Nest Seekers. He
Hmm.
goes and door knocks on yachts in Monaco. Chucks a video box
Right.
across, but it's the same tactics with a couple extra zeros at the
Exactly.
I want to ask Mark, who's a champ as well. Mark, you have some experience with expansion as well, and I also want to throw out there, Alex is a new dad today as of 4 a.m. So congratulations.
end. Thanks.
Thank you for still being here. Much
Yeah.
appreciated. But
This is
Mark,
not my beautiful beach scene that is behind me. No, this is definitely the fake window in the hospital. Uh,
Congratulations, Alex.
thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thank you, Drew. Expanding into a new market. So I'll give you the 60-second context. I grew up about an hour north of where I currently live and where I want to sell. And so a lot of my focus was learning the market, just understanding exactly what goes on down there. I joined a office that was an hour south of where I lived at the time, and just did office hours and just got my name out there as often as I could. And I think more emphasis should be put on the reps of just getting your name out there, talking to more people in your, desired market, whether that's in a coffee shop, whether that's on a listing appointment, whether that's on a buyer consult or just at an open house. The more you get into that market, the more you'll start to understand it, the more you'll start to gain market share, and it will snowball from there. And that's what's worked for me.
But to the point of 26 separate markets, right? So like Monique had a really great way of entering herself into a new market of just going to restaurants and starting conversations or understanding where some certain types of people hang out and hanging out there. But you can't be doing that 26 towns every night. He's a new dad now. You know what new
I
dads do, Alex? You don't know this yet. you ain't going out 26 nights a month. And that just doesn't happen anymore.
This
So
new dad already has lived on like 2 hours of sleep for like 15 years.
welcome to it. So it does have to incorporate all of the techniques at once, the cold calls, the mailers, the digital, and then yes, going out the networking and the business groups as well. But thank you for chatting with us again. Appreciate you being here. Please get off this call now and go get a nap. But I am gonna go back to Mark here because Mark is here to talk about expansion in his own way within his market in terms of volume. Mark, tell us what's going on your 2025 goals.
Yeah, so through the help of Sell It and my own work and all that good stuff, I've been able to bring my average price point up to where I would like it to be. So I brought it from about 450 all the way up to about 990. So just a shush shy of $1 million. Pissed me off a little bit, but it's okay. Next year. So with that, I would like to get more reps and more units in at that $1 million price point. And so
No, he's cutting wood.
He's cutting wood. That's crazy. So the plan is to double my open houses. I usually do about 2 a month. I'm going to try and do 4 a month in 2024 and 2025. I've also increased my Zillow ad spend by 50%, which is just 1,000 to 1,500, and improve my CRM, which I've already done. I have one more meeting with a company that I hired to go through it to improve that, improve follow-up, improve systems, make sure that I am on top of everyone as much as I can be. And then I'm waiting for one more way to improve things, but I haven't figured that one out quite yet. So I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah, I love that. So anyone who has any suggestions about building volume in 2025, please throw it in the chat. Please raise your hand. But you said a lot of keywords there. You said a lot of fun terms that we all have. Well, we're going to organize our CRM. We're going to do, but have you done like kind of what we do in the 2025 Business Builder? Have you worked backwards and said specifically, yes, okay, I doubled my Zillow, but what are the numbers that have to come out to that? How many people are you now calling a day that you weren't last year? Like, how have things changed rather than, I know I have to get these 5 things organized, but what exactly specifically, how deep can you get right now in like your per day activities, per month activities that you need to ramp up to double for next year?
Yeah, so I've done the Business Builder. It does work very, very well working backwards from it. I, unfortunately, because I'm lazy, suffer from a lack of data as to how I got a lot of these leads and a lot of these deals. And a lot of them are a little bit more, was it Sphere? Was it a referral? Was it just follow up? Did I knocked on his door. It happened to be my neighbor, but I knocked on his door. Is that Sphere? What's this? So identifying those things is not a strong point on my end. However, I know for a fact that as we get further into this and I do more and more units and get more and more reps in, I will be able to get better and better data. So I will be able to further analyze exactly what's going on. I do get a significant amount of my business from Zillow and open houses. I don't know exactly how much. I'll have to dive into it, but increasing that by 50% for the ad spend increases my conversions or my connections with Zillow by, I think, double, oddly enough. And doubling the open houses should effectively get me a few more deals next year, but I would like to double my entire units, and I don't know exactly how that's going to get done. So
does anyone else out there?
I want one more thing.
First of all, if anyone has the magic key, the one extra thing for Mark, please let us know. But has anyone else out there seen that, okay, doubling up open houses or spending more on ad spend necessarily convert and to more people? Or are you taking away time from other things? Like, what's the balance now? Are you doubling some of these efforts?
Drew, I think it's a mistake sometimes to look at things strictly as numbers, because a lot of the things we do are qualitative, not quantitative. Typically, what you see in increasing spend on something is a diminishing return. The more you spend, the less you get for the spend. So you kind of have to really monitor what's working, and when you're going to get to that wall that says, okay, it doesn't make any sense to spend more on this. But even before you get there, you have to, does it make sense to spend more of my time on this as the ROI curve is going down? And so that's when you need to really start looking for new ways to generate business.
I mean, exactly to the point of yeah, just doubling spend doesn't always equal double the leads. Who else out there? Let's open this up. Lindsay, you're doing farmers markets to meet people on Fridays, and what are the expectations from going out and meeting people in that world?
Yeah, so I started doing farmers markets just to visit, to check it out, because I used to go every summer and I hadn't. Long story short, one of the vendors started talking to me and I was like, wow, this guy talks a lot and I'm not really a talker. But he was nice. So I was nice to him. Come to find out, we knew a lot of the same people. My husband used to work with, well, still does, works with a lot of chefs. And he actually worked in a restaurant that we were very familiar with a chef that we knew very well. So we connected and he said, you know, if you come back, let me know. And I came back. I ended up helping him serve food just because I liked being there. So just in being there and helping him serve his food and sell food, it forced me to talk to people. I'm not incredibly outgoing. Like in a public setting, I'm not the person who's like, hey, how are you? I'm literally going in the opposite direction. So it put me in front of people I never would have been in front of. And in helping him sell his food, people would say, well, what do you do? Do you work with him? I could tell them what I do, but I earned his trust and he referred listings to me and rentals to me through that, and meeting all the other vendors there and promoting their businesses, not because I wanted their business, but because I loved what they were doing and I cared. They sent me people. So they're like, do you work in here? Do you work in here? Do you work in North Carolina? So as I started to meet more of these people and even people coming to the market, I realized I needed to expand. So now I'm expanding across the border into North Carolina so I can help people looking in Calabash and in that area right outside of me.
She's
So
trying to
for
push me out,
Christmas,
Drew.
huh?
I said she's trying to push me out.
I'm coming for you. No, we're
That's
collaborating.
fine.
We're collaborating.
He's bringing
I was
business
just
your
saying.
way.
Alex
Hey,
has
Drew.
told me a ton too, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking a lot, so he's been a wealth of information for me. But yeah, I wrap gifts there for free and raise money for the Humane Society too for Christmas. So just that small thing that I thought was no big deal because I enjoy doing it has resulted in all of this stuff. And I've got 3 people who are ready in January. They're like, I need this now, that I might not have had if I didn't start doing that.
Right, yeah, I think that almost goes back to Alex's question of expansion and Monique saying, hey, I go and do things in little pockets. Well, this is how you go and meet people. This is how you grow your sphere. Your spheres become connections, connections become leads, leads become clients, which is great. Anthony, I know you've been chatting in the chat. I know you want to let loose on Mark here, but in the
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that number, the answer, like what I was gonna say is that I feel like that number can double. And I wouldn't be as like tied to, because I think there's so much overlap in when we're creating content and communicating, and I wouldn't worry as much about how to label each individual person. I call like database gets one label. It can be made up of a couple people, but for me, broadly, just like who did I do business with and who did I not do business with? If I did business with them, they're a past client. If I did not do business with them, but they're just someone that I'm close to, that I either know socially or grew up with, went to school with, had prior business relationships with, see at the gym, like however you know them, they're a part of the sphere, they're part of the network that they fall under database. How I engage with them, just like we were talking about, like the omni-channel, the broad snapshot, I don't label also if they fell into my lap because I ran into them at a coffee shop or they engaged with something that I put on Instagram. Regardless, they're still a part of my database and they probably wouldn't have seen it or engaged if it wasn't that fact. So again, that's broadly, that's database. The plan that I execute to stay in front of them is going to be through multiple media. So I'm going to keep working on that and expanding it and wanting to deliver more value and have strong calls to action. But just knowing the little, like I feel like that number alone should give the opportunity to double that. And if that's 7 or 8 deals, that's at 16. And then it's just a matter of where the rest of the deal is going to come from. Are there enough activities? Doubling open houses could very well be an answer, right? If that doubles your opportunities to get face to face with people and you're seeing good results from them. And then I'm just look at like what other What other sources can you expand in that could give you additional opportunities? You probably have even more runway than just doubling if you really lean into it. How long have you lived in the area that you're in now?
January will be a year.
Okay. So it'll grow. That's going to start to really accelerate, though, as you get more and more plugged into the community and you're going to know more and more people. That's going to take off.
Yeah, I'd rather be overly confident with my actions, just in case if something falls by the wayside or life gets a little crazy and I miss out on one thing. 3 out of 4 actions are still covering my goal,
Yep.
just in case one thing falls by the wayside.
Exactly.
So that's why I ask about one more thing, because I want to be absolutely certain of it.
Yeah.
Well, you have like 30 people in the room here, and you have a whole community. And since Mark and Alex, you were super brave and confident here, coming and talking about what you're doing, we're gonna follow along all of next year. All right, every single
Let's
month,
do it.
I'm gonna check in on the both of you, and we're gonna follow along this progress. And if you wouldn't mind, let us know what you're trying, what's working. Let's do this like live check-ins for everybody here. And if anyone else wants to be involved as well, like, please send me your goal. Either write it in the Facebook group, in the membership, write it in Pro Slack. And we'll just do monthly check-ins and see what's working and see what's not working, and see if we can go meet these goals together. And then come next year, I'll either buy you a present or we will publicly shame you. And the present is so much better than the shame. No, but of course, we wish you guys the best. But I think you guys can definitely get there. Super excited to see your expansion, Alex. Mark, we're going to double you up, dude. It's going to happen. We did run out of time. Drew was here also. We're going to get to him next time, talking about team leadership and coming from becoming a CEO from a top producer and working with your team. So that will be our next session next month from our champs. As always, for everyone here in our membership, we thank you for giving us some of your time. We hope we provided some awesome takeaways. Anthony, thank you for being here. And if you haven't met Anthony yet, he's our new head of pro coaching. He's down to talk with anyone who wants to chat. So please feel free to hit him up in Pro Slack or the Facebook membership as well. Thanks for giving us some time, and we'll see you on Thursday with Chase or for office hours tomorrow with John Sean for all those pros. Take care, y'all.
See y'all, guys.
Yeah.